Welcome back. Today is day 4 of our similar triangles unit. We will be solving for the missing sides lengths of similar triangles. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Oh yeah, it's that time again. We have some math problems here and we need you to do them now. Pause the video, complete the problems, and return to the video when you're done. It says the perimeter of a rectangle is 154 feet. The ratio of the length to the width is 10 to 1. Find the length and width of the rectangle. Basically, that's what we're trying to do. All right, so let's take a look here. Let me draw a rectangle. Here's my rectangle. And it's telling us the ratio of the width to the length is 10 to 1. So for some examples we can have here, well, this side could be 1 and this side could be 10. And if I continued on, I can have other rectangles. It's not going to be drawn on the scale, but this would be 2, and this would be 20. I can keep going with that ratio. This might be 3, and this might be 30. So I can keep going over and over again. But what we're trying to figure out is which one of these rectangles has a perimeter of 154 feet. But the cool thing about this is we can just turn this into a little algebra problem. So let's say, okay, so now we're going to say, I'm going to call this side x. And if that side is x, what is the other side? And it has to be in the ratio of 10 to 1. So this one would have to be 10x. And if you want to write it with the 1 in front, you can. But you can see that those sides will have a ratio of 10 to 1. All right, now we can just do a simple algebra problem, and we know the perimeter of this problem is equal to 154 feet. So we can set up a simple equation real quick, and that would be, I'm going to do 2 times x, because there's 2 widths, plus 2 times 10x, and that has to equal 154 feet. All right, let's simplify this real quick. So this shouldn't be too bad. This is 2x plus 20x is equal to 154. 22x is equal to 154. Divide both sides by 22, easy algebra. X is equal to, let's see what that is. What is 154 divided by 22? And that's 7. Oh, nice. Went in there evenly, so 7. So here we go. Let's take a look at this. What's the width and the length? So one side of my rectangle, so now if I'm drawing the rectangle out, it's going to be x is 7, so that means this side's going to be 7, and this will be 7 times x, because we're going to do 10 times 7, which is 70. And then if you check this real quick, well, the other side is 70, and this side is 7, so if you add that up, that's 140 plus 14, which is 154. So we found the rectangle. So again, using ratios, a little simple little review problem, but now let's try something a little bit different. So here we go. So here's how most of the problems are going to look in our chapter. So it says, in the diagram, triangle DEF is similar to triangle MNP. So we know there's some kind of dilation that will give you one triangle to the other one. So you can, you can make it bigger to end up matching that triangle. But the things that we're supposed to know is we know the corresponding angles are congruent. So we would know that the angles that go together are congruent. And then we know the sides are proportional. And that's the key. So usually when I'm doing these problems, my first step is to figure out, well, what triangles are similar to each other. So they've already given this to us. Number 2, my next step, and which makes my life a lot easier, is to write out my statement of proportionality. So let's write out a proportion for this whole problem. So in order to do that, I usually just map out all my sides. So DE corresponds to, and I like to use the letters. So like DE corresponds to MN. So remember I told you the other day I like to use these. So DE corresponds to MN. And if you look at the picture, that's this piece goes with MN, this piece. So that makes sense. Those are the parts that map to each other. And that has to equal, and then I would use the next one. So I would go EF corresponding to NP. And look at EF is going to be this piece over here corresponding to this piece over here. So that's all we're doing. So we're just mapping up which sides go with each other. So EF corresponds to NP. And lastly, my last statement, I'm going to use the D and the F. So like the first letter and the last letter and the N and the P. So I like to use the letters. I usually don't even use the pictures. So when I do that, that has to equal, and let's map the last one. So DF maps to or corresponds with MP. Perfect. And from the picture you can see DF is this piece and MP is this piece. All right, so that's all we're doing. So my first step is I usually identify the triangles that are similar. Number 2 is I'll write a proportion like this. And then step 3 is I'm just gonna plug everything in. So now I'm just gonna go and start plugging everything in. So I'll do some substitution. So number 3. Step 3, let's substitute. All right, DE, do we know how long that is? Yep, that's 9. What about MN? That's 12. What about EF? Segment EF that's X, that's what we're trying to solve for. What about NP, which is 20? And lastly, DF, which is 12, and MP, which is 16. So here's your problem. So now you get a choice usually when you're doing these problems, and I usually do this method, but then I'll pick which proportion I want to solve. So I can either pick, I'm going to write them both out right now, but I can either try to solve either this one, or I can try to solve the other one, this one over here. So I'm going to try to solve either one. So if you want, you're going to get the same answer. So 9 over 12 is equal to X over 20, because these are all equal to each other. Or I can solve the other one. X over 20 is equal to 12 over 16. So it's up to you which ones you solve. You pick one and solve it. I usually pick the one with the smallest numbers. And then after that, we'll just multiply the means and the extremes, and we're going to be done with this problem. So remember, my means was this one. This is my means. So that'll give you 12 times X, which is 12X. And that has to equal, let's multiply the extremes, which is 9 times 20, which is 180. Perfect. And then we have one last little step. Let's divide by 12. And so we have an answer for this problem. X is equal to, what is 180 divided by 12? And remember, I said you can also use GeoGebra or Google or however you want. A lot of my students are just typing in my proportion into. You can just type this into GeoGebra. Type this right here into GeoGebra, and it will solve it for you. All you have to do is put the word solve in front. So you would just say, solve this little equation. Okay, my answer is 15. All right, so again, so step 4 is just the solving part. So step 4 is just solve now. Now again, you can do the solving on GeoGebra, or you can do it by hand. Either way, whatever is easier, doesn't matter to me. All right, we're going to solve that second equation using GeoGebra. So remember, just type in solve and then type the equation you want. So X divided by 20 is equal to 12 divided by 16, and we see the answer is 15. Beautiful. All right, next problem. So here we go. So let's take a look at this one. Triangle XYZ is similar to triangle PQR. So in this problem, they have told you what triangles are similar, so I usually write these out. Triangle XYZ is similar to triangle PQR. All right, not too bad. Step 1 done. Number 2, let's write our proportions. So then I would just write out my proportions. XY corresponds to PQ, and I can do that without even looking at the picture. YZ corresponds to QR, and that has to equal XZ corresponds to PR. There we go. Because sometimes the picture is misleading. It's not drawn to scale, and it's kind of confusing. But now, once I have that, so I have step 1 done, I have step 2 done. Now let's just substitute and solve. So let's substitute in here. So do we know xy, which is, yep, we know, xy is 35. PQ is 28. YZ, where's YZ, is 15. QR is 12. XZ is 30. And PR is, and this is what we're trying to solve. So like I said before, you pick which one, once you get to here, pick which one you want to solve. I am going to solve this proportion right here. That's the one I'm going to solve. That one looks pretty simple. So let's multiply your means and extremes. So my means is going to be 30 times 12, which is 360. And that has to equal, let's multiply the means or the extremes. There we go. That should be 15n. And then do a little algebra divided by 15, and you're done with this problem. So not too bad. So n is equal to, what is 360 divided by 15? Let's check that out real quick. A little calculator help. And you get 24. Perfect. And again, like I said, you could throw that equation into GeoGebra and solve it. It'd be much faster, but that's how we do it by hand. All right, let's try one more. All right, let's try to solve this problem. So solve, let's see, it was, what was it? 15 divided by 12 is equal to 30 divided by x. Oh, answer is done already. I didn't have to press enter. Answer is 24. Same thing, same type of problem. You should be able to do this on your own now. So triangle PQR. QR is similar to triangle FGH. And writing the proportions help me to remember that that's what it means when it's similar. So when triangles are similar, the sides are proportional. So I'm just going to say all my sides are proportional. So PQ to FG is equal to QR to GH, which is equal to PR to FH. There we go. Because if triangles are similar, their sides are proportional, and then we just do a little substitution and solve. So this shouldn't be too bad now. So 10.5 to FG, which is 7. QR is 9. GH is N. That's what I'm trying to solve for. And PR, where's PR? 6. To FH, which is 4. And pick your proportion that you're going to solve. I'm going to solve this one because it doesn't have a decimal. It makes my life a lot easier. So you should see now, this should be getting a lot quicker for you. So my means, 6 times n is just 6n. And that's going to be equal to the product of the extremes, which is, oh, this is nice, 36. Divide by 6, and n is equal to 6. Done. All right, let's solve the last one, and we're done here. So solve, it was n divided by x is equal, or sorry, 9 divided by x is equal to 6 divided by 4. Oh my goodness, so fast. All right, we're done with this one. All right, hope you enjoyed this lesson. Yep, that was it for this one. So hope you enjoyed this lesson. It shouldn't be too bad, but every single lesson after this will solve the same kind of manner.